Good afternoon. On behalf of Starkloff Disability Institute and Diversity Awareness Partnership, I would like to welcome everyone to part 2 of our series, Black Disabled Lives Matter, an intimate view from self-advocates in our community. My name is Lori Becker, and I'm the Chief Operating Officer of the Starkloff Disability Institute, and it is my pleasure to co-facilitate this presentation today.
Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Melissa Brickey, and I am the Executive Director of Diversity Awareness Partnership. I will also be co-facilitating the conversation today, and we really have a wonderful panel of speakers with us today.
So before we dive in to the conversation, there are a few technical aspects of this format that we would like to go over. This webinar is being recorded today and will be distributed to everyone following the presentation. Please note that there are interpreting and captioning services available throughout this presentation. And if you need access to those features, please refer to the guide that was emailed to you prior to this event. We will also be actively monitoring the Q&A and the chat boxes throughout the presentation. If you have any technical questions that arise, please send those through the chat box. If you have any questions for the panelists throughout, please send those through the Q&A box. And if you see questions from someone else that you would also like to see answered, please give those a thumbs up and we will prioritize for those panelists throughout.
Thanks, Lori. As I said, I'm from Diversity Awareness Partnership, and we are really excited to partner with Starkloff Disability Institute today to bring you this important conversation during Disability Pride Month and as we approach the 30th anniversary of the ADA. DAP's mission is to be a catalyst to increase awareness, facilitate engagement, and provide education about diversity and inclusion. Our vision is inclusive communities where diversity is respected and embraced, and equity is the norm. And one of our core values is collaboration, so we're thrilled today to be presenting this session with Starkloff Disability Institute.
The Starkloff Disability Institute works to create a world that welcomes people with disabilities through pathways to employment, education, and universal access. And our theme for Disability Pride Month is Diversity Includes Disability. And we aim to advance the local and national conversations and to explore the many identities a person has, whether it be disability, race, gender, or socioeconomic status, and the ways that those interact to experience and shape their experience with the world.
So last week, we spoke with national thought leaders who are working to advance opportunities for people with disabilities in the Black community. And you can find that recording on Starkloff Disability Institute's website. And these folks that we talked to last week are working hard to fight stigmas and stereotypes associated with the identities of being Black and being a person with a disability. In today's conversation, our goal is to amplify and to listen to the voices of individuals who share these identities and who live right here in our community.
It has been my pleasure to get to know our panelists today throughout their interactions with us at Starkloff Disability Institute. They have worked with us as program participants, as graduates, as interns and practicum students, and our organization has been made richer by knowing them, and I hope they feel the same way. And we are very grateful for them participating with us today and to share their stories. So we want to welcome with us today, Rose Gielan, Sharon Lyons, Brandon Morris, and Aaron Owens. So welcome to each of you. And at this time, we'd like for each of them to really introduce themselves to you, the audience. Rose, would you like to go first?
Yeah, I would love to.
Thank you.
As Lori mentioned, my name is Rose. I am from Haiti. For those who don't know, it's a small island in the Caribbean. moved to St. Louis to attend the Brown School of Social Work, where I received my a Master of Social Work this year. I got into Starkloff by doing an internship with the Career Academy back in 2019, and I really enjoyed it, so I stayed in touch. Right now, I'm currently looking for opportunities to practice my social work skills. So if you know anyone, you feel free to email me. I'm excited to be here, and I'm excited to share my experience and to answer some of your questions. Thank you.
Thanks so much, Rose. Sharon, you want to tell us about yourself?
Yes, thank you. My name is Sharon Lyons. I'm a mother and a grandmother. I'm a native of St. Louis. I have a bachelor's degree in business. I have 11 years of work experience with the federal government, and also about 15 years of work experience with nonprofit organizations, mainly in the mental health field.
Thanks, Sharon. Brandon, tell us about yourself.
Okay. Good morning, everyone. It's a pleasure to be in the company of the panelists and being in the company of all who are attending. My name is Brandon Morris. As Lori said, I am an African-American man. I have a disability, but I like to always say that disability doesn't have me. I'm a quadriplegic. I acquired my disability by way of a gunshot wound in 1996. I am a graduate from Maryville University. I was I was guided to attend Maryville University and go through the rehabilitation services program through Colleen in 2010. From there, I graduated and acquired my bachelor's degree in rehabilitation services in 2015. And from there, I was a participant in the Next Big Step program. From there, I was able to acquire gainful employment, where I am currently a data management specialist at Centene Corporation. In addition to some of my professional and schooling, I'm a father. Don't know if I mentioned that soon, and happy to be a grandfather real soon here coming up in December. So I'm just a guy who living my life with a disability and trying to have the best life I can continue to push forward to having.
Thanks, Brandon. Aaron, tell us about yourself.
All right. Good afternoon. My name is Aaron Owens. I am totally blind. I am a graduate of Fontbonne University. I have a bachelor's in social science. I'm currently pursuing a degree in criminal justice. I was a participant or a candidate in the Capstone program in Starkloff, and I also had the privilege to be a practicum student, and I really find that Starkloff is a very distinct institution. I've never been in a place where they allow people with disabilities to have such empowerment and be able to build self-confidence and self-awareness and things like that. And I'm also an advocate for people with disabilities.
Thanks, Aaron. So this first question goes out to all of you. What does being Black and disabled mean to you? Is there anyone who would like to answer that? Jump in there first.
I jump in and take the lead on this one, Lori. Being Black, number one, is being proud. I'm proud to be a Black man. I am proud to be an individual who is a part of a culture that has displayed resilience, that have displayed grit, that has, and in spite of some of the many challenges my ancestors went through, still push towards equality and still continue to fight the good fight when there are so many challenges that other individuals and other cultures may not have to overcome. Being Black and being proud and continue to push forward is my definition of being Black. Being disabled is also a unique subculture of the overall community. I'm proud to be an individual who have a disability, and I'm proud to continue to push forward in spite of some of the apparent challenges that I have. And those are my definitions of being Black and being an individual living with a disability.
I'll go next. So my disability is what people might call an invisible disability. And for me, I feel like when I walk in a space, I see myself as what you might call a quadruple threat. I'm Black, I'm a woman, I'm disabled, and I'm also an immigrant. I come with an accent. So I'm always aware of these things. And I'm very proud to be Black. I'm very proud to be an immigrant. And I'm lucky enough that I've spent half of my life in the US, and I've become part of the community and part of the Black community here. And at first it was a constant learning on how to be Black. And now it's learning how to be Black and disabled. And one time someone told me that I am the exception to the rule. I am not the rule. And that really stuck with me because I see other people as the rule. And when I come to a space where they have made this exception for me to be there, that I am the exception to the rule. And because of that, I'm always so mindful. And I want to, I don't want to act as if that they are giving me permission to be there. I feel like it's my job to take enough space. I feel like at times when we are disabled, and even Black also, we tend to close off a bit more. We don't want to take too much space. We don't want too much attention on us because we feel like people are already doing enough for us. And to me, I always feel like, I don't think this is enough, and I want to advocate for more. And that's what I want to continue to do. While I was at SDI, I learned so much about how to advocate for people with disability. And while I was there also, I learned how to add to it by adding Blackness, because there were a lot of Black women in the Career Academy class that I was in. And a lot of them had questions on how to be Black, especially how to be Black women with disabilities, looking for jobs or just living in this world. So when I see, I feel like being Black and disabled is one and the same for me. It's just that those identities don't go away when I wake up in the morning, and they will not be going away anytime soon. So I had to learn to live with them while advocating for others.
Well, sort of related to that then, and thank you both, Rose and Brandon. In what ways have your identities intersected in your professional and personal life? Rose, it sounds like just from what you said that it's always intersecting. So other thoughts about that, how your identities intersect in your professional and personal life?
I think of intersectionality, I think of criminalization because I've experienced that. My disability is mental illness, and mental illness is often criminalized, and being Black can be criminalized also. And I've experienced both of those because when I was working for the federal government, I was arrested for disrupting a government office because things I said, things I did scared people, and that led to being criminalized. And I was arrested and jailed for disrupting a government office. Charges were eventually dropped, but it wasn't. But after I was traumatized really for being arrested and jailed against my will and afraid of what was going to happen to me in jail.
I think Aaron was going to say something.
Well, yeah, I didn't want to interrupt Sharon. I was waiting. Yeah, I wanted Sharon to finish her thoughts. Thank you, Sharon. I want to kind of add to what the question was previously, since I didn't really get to chime in. But when you say black and disabled, I kind of look at them as one and the same a little bit sometimes, because they both present their own separate boundaries. You know, like their own obstacles and shortcomings and things like that. And that's how I kind of view it. It's just, I guess it depends on the kind of situation. Like Sharon was saying, I mean, it's like, in some cases, maybe the first thing somebody might notice about me is if I'm, that I'm blind, if I'm, maybe walking with my cane or something like that. But I'm pretty sure, like, the first thing that people still see when they see me is the fact that the color of my skin is not like, I'm just saying, like, the first thing people recognize is the fact that I am black, which I have no problem with that. But I was just looking at the fact that I look at, maybe what I'm saying is, I don't want to call being black a disability, but I'm saying, like, it presents its own problems, I guess, in society just as well as being disabled. Mm-hmm. As far as like when you were talking about equity and I guess like opportunities and things like that, and people aren't being able to maybe understand or want to understand. So I was like just looking at it in that perspective.
I wanted to say something about what Sharon was talking about. It is very traumatizing to be arrested and to be put in the system. Even when people go to mental health hospital, it can be traumatizing because it's not a safe place. It's supposed to keep you safe from doing something to yourself. However, it's not safe. So I can see how that experience would have been traumatizing for you, Sharon. And as a Black person, as a person with a disability, for you to be arrested, instead of giving you the service that you needed, they arrested you and traumatized you more. And then you will have to get more help to actually clear that out. There are so many Black bodies experiencing that currently. And that's another conversation we need to have.
Yes, that's true. Being arrested didn't lead to me getting any kind of treatment or any help for what I was experiencing. It wasn't until much later that I got correctly diagnosed and treated for a mental illness.
Thanks for sharing that, Sharon and Rose and Aaron. I have another question for you. Considering the recent state of affairs, be as completely honest as you can. How are you doing? And how has the pandemic and the civil unrest impacted you and your day-to-day life, emotionally, socially, and physically?
This pandemic has been very trying. I guess that's the best way to explain it for me, because having to be shut in and not being able to, even just go to the grocery store, and it's all and I'm glad you asked that question, because it bothered me when they put out the guidelines as far as how to be safe. It's almost like they didn't even take in consideration that, like, what if you have like certain disabilities? Like, I have to use, like, since I'm blind, I use my hands like for my eyes, so I use my hands a lot. So when they tell you don't touch surfaces and wash your hands every time you do this and don't touch your face, I mean, I was just freaked out, because I'm like, how can I avoid how can I stay safe if it's like, I have to go, and do all these other things just to have my, to live my regular life, and it consists of me touching things a lot. And then like with them shutting down stores, and it's like if you don't have access to getting food delivered to you, or if you don't have a support system, I mean, it's like you're pretty much were just, you know, you're just left out there to fend for yourself.
I'd like to speak upon the emotional side, the emotional aspect of the unrest, and a little bit towards the social and physical. Emotionally, I've been pretty saddened to see what we all have witnessed on TV with George Floyd. That was very emotionally painful for me to see. I'm a person that's on the ventilator, so I know the value of respirations. And I have popped off my ventilator before, and most times people are within an earshot of me. There's been times where I had to gasp for breath, and it's a feeling of desperation and it's a feeling of helplessness. And to see and witness George Floyd be unnecessarily slain on TV, that was very painful and pretty personal. And after all of the uprise, after all of the challenges that has continued to go on, immediately, and I say immediately, within the next couple of weeks, to see Rashard Brooks get killed the way he got killed on television, it was really like pouring salt in the wound of African Americans, because we witnessed what we just saw a week ago, and it didn't change anything. The uprising, the protests, it didn't change anything in the minds of those two. Well, not those two, because there was one person who pulled the trigger. That was really painful for me, and it makes me think of all the other parents who have lost children by way of the hands of law enforcement. I know all law enforcement aren't bad, but the ones that have taken the lives of young black men and black women in the manner in which they've done it, and it seems to have continually happened over the course of 2 or 3 decades, and especially with that one, with Rayshard Brooks happening on the heels of George Floyd, how it did, it makes me feel very pained, and it makes me feel like Black lives don't matter to some people. Socially, I've been fortunate because I have to utilize nurses to come in and out of my house to help me with the simplest things that most people take for granted: washing, feeding, bathing, transferring from the bed to the wheelchair, from the wheelchair back to the bed. I've been fortunate to have my nurses continue to come in and out my house, so the lack of socialization or isolation hadn't been a true factor. But overall, I've been doing fine. But the emotional side of just the continuous actions of law enforcement not respecting the lives of black men has been really, it is really a challenge for me right now.
Honestly, I'm terrified. I have been in the front line. I have been protesting, and I will be protesting this evening. About 3 weeks ago, I was pepper sprayed along with some friends, and many of people I feel like my family were arrested, and it made me realize that the police are bullies. They are bullies in uniform. They are bullies with guns, and they don't want us to express ourselves. And especially when you're a Black person, they don't want you to do anything. They want you to be quiet. Recently, I saw a video of a Black man on a wheelchair who was being arrested at what I assume was a protest. he was thrown off his chair. They threw his chair across the street, and they broke his chair. And they tried to handcuff him, and he was just, it seems like he was fighting for his life. They did not take into account that this guy was on a wheelchair. They did not even, it seems like they didn't care. And things like that really pisses me off. And when I see all the Black women and Black men being killed, it really scares me, because I imagine them being me, and I cannot believe how traumatized this thing can be. So many friends, especially my white friends, were sending me videos, and they still do that. And I've had to ask them, can you please not? I'm not ready to see this. I need to be mentally ready for it. I'm really grateful that I have a really wonderful therapist who has been supporting me through this, because after watching some of the videos, I needed self-care. I needed someone to talk about them with. Even sometimes after protesting, I feel really afraid at times, but at the same time, I feel like I need to make my voice heard, because if I don't, who is going to do that? And I am making my voice heard for the people who can't, for the people who don't have the voice, for the people who cannot go in the street. Even though at times it can be painful to be out there, but I'm going to continue to do it, because I'm doing it for my future kids, because one day I'm going to have kids, and they're going to be Black, and they're going to be Black in this country. And I feel like right now it's my job as a young adult to do the work, and hopefully one day my kids will be protected. But this is a word, I feel like, even though part of me believes that we will win, but at the same time, I feel like as long as we have a police system the way it is, things will not change. We need total reform for me to be safe. I don't feel safe going on runs around my neighborhood. I don't feel safe going on walks. I used to walk all the time, but there are police patrolling. What if I fit the description? I worry about that quite often. And we need change. We need change now.
I feel like I'm doing pretty good during the pandemic. My job had work from home hours before the pandemic, and initially I was told that my job couldn't be done at home. But during the pandemic, they came up with things that I could do at home. So I'm grateful that I'm able to keep my job and I wasn't laid off or anything like that. I feel like watching the news is sometimes traumatic. As Brandon mentioned, it's sad to see the deaths on TV of George Floyd and others. But I think the protests are helpful. I see it as a hopeful sign that so many people are coming out to say that we need change in our society. Both Black and white and other nationalities are coming out more and more to these protests to show that we all need change. We all believe in change needs to happen.
Thank you, Sharon, and thank you everybody for sharing for sure. So as you think about the intersectionality, back to the question and thought about intersectionality, has it been your experience that the disability community recognizes your race as a unique part of your identity? And similarly, does the Black community recognize your disability?
Can you repeat the question, please?
Yeah, sure. So has it been your experience that the disability community recognizes your race as a unique part of your identity? And then vice versa, do you see that your disability, or does the Black community recognize your disability as a unique part of your identity? Where do you see in those two communities, where do you see the intersectionality come up and recognized or not recognized?
From my experience, I feel like in the disabled community, we don't talk about race enough. And I feel like that needs to change. And that's why having safe spaces for Black people and other people of color is important, because not everyone can relate. As Aaron said earlier, he says being disabled and being Black as one and the same. Not everyone see it the same way. Some people don't experience life the way Black people do. We have shared experience.
Sorry, we're getting some background noise somewhere, but go ahead, Ruth.
Okay. Not everyone, we do have shared experience. However, not all of our experience are the same, because some of us are Black, some of us are immigrants, and we are facing different things. In the Black community, I feel like there need to be more awareness of disability, because there are so many Black people who are becoming disabled on a daily basis, whether it's through gunshot or police interactions. I do feel like we need to have this conversation so we can mentally prepare ourselves for when these things happen. I'm constantly having these conversations with my family and friends that it's just like not to be a negative person, but to actually just mentally prepare yourself just in case that were to happen. Because I feel like in my daily interactions, if I were to go out and go for a run and I happen to fit the description, maybe something might happen to me. How are we going to talk about this and how we will move forward from there? So I guess to go back to the question, there's conversation we need to have as a whole in the disabled community, and there's conversation we need to have as Black people. We need them to be more aware that disability is a thing, and it might happen to some of you, and we need to talk about how to move forward if it were to happen.
Mm-hmm.
I'd like to dive in and chime in on this question. I would like to answer it in two parts. From a professional perspective, being Black and having a disability is opportunity, truth be told. Companies, all we're hearing a lot about is D&I. D&I, you hear a lot of D&I talk, and being Black is a minority subgroup, as I shared earlier, and having a disability is a minority subgroup. And there are many companies from a professional aspect looking to seek out talent of those two communities. So I see opportunity when it comes to being disabled and being Black, because the inclusion of people who are not of the majority and who are not the standard are being sought out. So I see opportunity from a professional aspect. Personally, I'd like to say, and everybody is unique, everybody is different. Some folks don't like to be put in a position where they're compared to this or they're compared to that to help inspire others. I take it sometimes as an honor to be a Black man who is a quadriplegic, who is vent dependent, who has a job, who helps take care of my family, and compare that, or not so much compare that, but have individuals speak of me when they're talking to another individual who is Black, who might not have drive or who might not have ambition to move forward. And like I say, everybody is different. Some people with disabilities don't want that, but I take it as an honor to be looked at as a person who you can measure success on or success by, or not so much success, but a person who hasn't given up on life despite the challenges to keep moving forward. And if that helps inspire some of my young Black brothers out here, I'll take that as an honor, and I'll take that opportunity every time to help light a fire up under somebody's rear end if they need that fire, and uses me as an example.
You know, Brendan, I think that's another reason why the Career Academy at SDI exists, because it really helps people see all where they can. I feel like it helps people see that they have so much more to them apart from the disability. Often, what I'm realizing is that a lot of people feel like being disabled is all they have, when some of them have so many years of experience. They just don't know how to put them to good use. I appreciate you saying that. At times, being Black and being disabled is definitely can be an opportunity for us, but at the same time, is learning how to put yourself out there. A lot of times when I'm applying for jobs online and they ask me if I'm disabled, I'm just like, if I answer this, will they give me a chance to interview, or will they see it as a setback for them? And I feel like a lot of people are questioning that. And I'm assuming for you, you never question it. You just put yourself out there.
My situation, it's obvious. It's real apparent. You know what I'm saying? It is what it is. I'm in a wheelchair. I drive a powered wheelchair. I have a trach in my neck. So my situation is apparent, whereby other individuals who have non-apparent disabilities may find it more challenging. Mm-hmm. And I can't speak for every company. I can't speak for every HR department across the country, but individuals who have went to school, who have the skills to get the job done, I encourage individuals to disclose their disability. And, you know, you might find a company who, for whatever reason, don't embrace it, but more so than not, and I'm speaking of probably larger companies, they are seeking out people who have disabilities to help the diversity within their company, who might have some different way of thinking, who may be able to be the problem solver that they're looking for. So, you know, to each his own, and we all have to use our own judgment when it comes to what works best for us. But from my experiences and just from my observations, being Black, being a person who has a disability, has opportunity labeled all around it.
Mm-hmm. Thank you.
Thank you.
But I don't know if we still have a little time on this subject. Do we?
Go ahead, Aaron.
Look, okay. I didn't even know really didn't even understand the concept of having being a double minority. Haven't even heard the word until I had worked at Starkloff, and I realized that I was a double minority. But from my experiences in the community, as far as, do I think that do I think that being Black in the disabled community, do they put enough emphasis on it? I don't really have much to say really upon that, but I know as far as, do I think that that the Black community, like when I say Black community, I'm saying most of these organizations and programs, and they lack, I don't want to say the compassion or the consideration or anything like that, but it's very limited on how much people extend themselves as far as trying to be knowledgeable or educate themselves on how to interact with people with disabilities. I kind of find like a lot of people find it easier just to dismiss you, or just basically tell you like you might not be able to perform these certain objectives, or you can't do these certain activities, or maybe you're a hazard to yourself. Like I've had those kind of things said to me, like, you know, they won't even allow you to even prove yourself sometimes, or they already, you know, make their mind up that you can't do it because of their own personal, like, you know, I guess stuff of stereotypes and things like that. So I find it kind of hard in the Black community to find people that and resources that tend to like support and try to uplift and give people with disabilities, like whether it's apparent or unapparent. I mean, well, whether it's an invisible disability or visible disability, it's like they tend to want to be more standoffish. They don't want to really like approach that situation. It seems like, you know, it's like I guess it's like you better, like, I guess they just assume that you're just supposed to be shut in, or, you know, you're just supposed to get a government check or something, and, you know, out of sight, out of mind kind of concept. That's kind of what I see. So I don't see a lot of support as far as like when you're asking about the emphasis or the fact of acknowledgement of being Black and disabled.
Mhm.
My suggestion, and I don't know everything, Aaron, is to keep casting your net. Keep casting your net, and you'll get bites, and continue to be a part of organizations like the Starkloff Disability Institute. You know, I'm fortunate to be in the position I am now, and nothing was handed to me. I had to work hard. I naturally have a outgoing spirit, and I try to look at the cup half full versus half empty, and I push forward, and by the grace of God, I'm in a good position. And respectfully, I'm not discounting anything you're saying, but I just encourage you to keep casting your net, because if you are an individual who has what it takes to be a good candidate for a job, you will find the opportunity. And I don't believe that your disability will, or your Blackness will hold you back. You know, I work with a man who has visual impairment, and he thrives at his job, and multiple guys at my job, as a matter of fact. So just keep pushing forward, my brother, and you will find some opportunity out there, I believe.
Thank you guys for sharing that. How would you like to see organizations be more inclusive of Black disabled voices? What do you think are some opportunities there?
Can you say that one more time, Laura?
I'm sorry. How would you like to see organizations be more inclusive of Black disabled voices?
Anybody have anything to say? Because I got something that I would like to share. Anybody?
Well, you go ahead and
Sharon?
Yeah, I was like, you can go ahead and start it off.
Well, my thing is...
I see Sharon was going to say something. Were you going to say something, Sharon?
Well, go ahead, Brandon.
No, you go ahead, Sharon. Ladies first.
Okay. I was just going to say, I think it takes more outreach and more time sometimes to reach people who are Black and disabled, to include them. It takes time, and it takes patience sometimes, and it takes being willing to be a little bit more outgoing or a little bit more understanding in some cases. You know, sometimes I hear jokes about crazy people or things like that. Or I've heard that, you know, Black people don't get mental illness, which is totally untrue. But I think it takes some more education and some more patience and time to reach out.
I think companies need to see that Black people and Black people with disabilities have a lot to offer, and they should use these things instead of putting them in the corner. They should be open to feedback. They should listen to their needs, but not only just pick one, just use that person to speak for the whole community, but also speak for themselves. And while they can try to have a conversation with other people in the community to see how they can make a bigger difference. I think we need to have more conversations, and so instead of just hiring one person or two people with disabilities and call it a quit, but continue to have conversation, continue to do the work to be better as an organization and as a company. Brendan?
Go ahead, Aaron, and I'll follow up after you.
Well, I feel that like Sharon said, and just to add on to what Rose was saying, yeah, it would take, to me, that a lot of stigmas would have to be removed, because there are so many stigmas at play. Like Sharon was saying, like, you know, it's like black people don't get mental illness, or like the same thing that was going on with the COVID. They were saying black people don't get COVID, but yet we were one of the highest populations that were affected by it. I feel that the lack of understanding and compassion, the lack of trust in a lot of these situations. I mean, you got situations where, like, I'm not going to lie, in the black community, a lot of people don't trust doctors. They don't like to go to the hospitals. They don't think, you know, they don't believe, like, a lot of the what the prognosis and stuff like that. They don't trust the medicine. They don't believe, you know, like, like I said, I think it would take more education on both ends, actually. I mean, the community, the black community needs to be more aware of the fact that we have disabilities and people have disabilities, and I believe that a lot of these organizations have to be more diligent on, you know, bringing information into the community, and I think that would kind of help. Same thing like with the police. Like, I mean, it's all about listening and reaching out, talking, communicating, and learning from one another.
One thing I'd like to add, we've been talking about categories and minority categories. I shared earlier, I'm a black man. I'm a black man with a disability, and I'm a black man who acquired my disability by way of violence. I have a lot of friends. I have a lot of people who see me and are inspired by my situation. And I'm humbled by anything positive anyone sees within me. But oftentimes I'm used as a reference to another young African American man. And what I think would be a positive, or if we can have some type of shift in the paradigm, is meet people where they are at. Oftentimes, respectfully, you have to have a high school diploma, or you have to have your college degree. That's not to say a person who don't have that isn't welcome. However, when I say meet people where they are, some of these young men, the disconnect between myself and, not disconnect, I'm sorry, the difference maybe between myself and some of the other young men is that I had a good support. Have the education, they might not have structure in their life, is because how they grew up. And unfortunately, their families weren't there and didn't provide the ample love and support that they needed. So some of the criteria needs to be met, well, not met, but we need to adjust the criteria. And if a person or a young man needs some of the things that they didn't have growing up, we need to amend and be flexible and offer some of those things, and that might narrow the gap, and that might pull in and bring in more candidates to move forward and propel their life to a better place than where it is currently.
Mhm. Thanks, Brandon.
Thanks, Brandon. So we have a bunch of questions in the Q&A and in the chat, and we only have a little bit of time left. And so I'm gonna just ask a question of the panelists, but what I'd like to offer is that if you haven't had the opportunity to say something at this point that you'd like our audience to hear, feel free to offer something else in answer to this question rather than answering the question. So just thinking about the future, and Sharon, earlier you mentioned the word hope. If we left this session today and everything was better, how would that look for you and for people with disabilities and for the Black community? Rose, you want to start us off?
I apologize. I was reading one of the questions. Can you please ask this question again?
Yeah, sure. Just if we left the session today and everything was better, what would that look like for the Black community and for the disabled Black community?
I think I will see more conversations happening and more opportunities for Black and disabled voices and big companies. I will see more colleges offering courses on disability history, disability rights, which I've been in college for a long time, from undergrad and grad school. I never had the opportunity to take a class like that. And a lot of my classmates, especially in grad school, had questions about these things. And for some reason, a lot of them did not learn about the whole history until they came to St. Louis. And I think we had someone, I don't remember which organization, came to one of my courses and talked about disability rights and talk about the whole history of what's been happening. I understand that it's important to the more education you have, the more opportunity you'll have. But I want to see more opportunities for people with all level of education, because not all of us had the same opportunities. I'm really grateful that I was able to get my master's, but I understand that many people wouldn't be able to do the same thing. I feel like I want to speak for them, but I also want them to have a voice for themselves. So creating more space for those people, no matter what level in the organizations. When I walk into a room, especially in a building for work, I want to see more. I want to see more diversity. But in a sense, I want to see disabled people all form. I want to see blind people. I want to see people in wheelchairs. I want to see people using canes and things like that. I want to see older people. So if I were to live this right now and this world was a better place for disabled people, these are the things that I would want to see. I want people to be aware of who we are and what's happening. I want them to give us opportunities to shine.
Yeah, I would want to see more like equity, more equal opportunity, just even be just basic, like just simple things. I just want more accessibility to certain things, like even just, I feel like we have to, being disabled, you know, you have to go out of your way in order to live a normal life. So I feel like since the market is kind of like not pushed toward us as far as when technology and stuff really comes out, until like, you know, maybe somebody has a reason to focus on something like that. I mean, like I had to go buy a TV that talks because, I mean, most of these television programs do not have the talking closed caption. So it's like, you know, no narrative or anything like that. So it's just things like that. I mean, it's just I just want to be in the conversation. I figure if it was more equity, you know, we'll be part of the conversation. We'll get the disabled people be at the table and be able to speak on things that we that we like to enjoy, as well as people with ability, with able bodies.
Sharon, what are your thoughts? What are your thoughts about if we left today and everything was better, what would it look like for you?
I agree with what Rose and Aaron had to say. Also, though, as far as mental illness, I would add that I'd like to see more people of color going into the mental health field as providers. I think that would make it easier for people, the Black community, to accept mental illness and be willing to talk about it more.
Is Brandon with us still?
I think Brandon, we lost him, but now he's back. So we're gonna give him a connect back to audio and then hear some final thoughts from him. Welcome back, Brandon. Sorry we lost you. While we're waiting for Brandon to connect. Oh, there he is. Hi, Brandon.
I had a little technical difficulties, but I'm back on.
That's great. We're glad you're back.
We were finishing up the question about what you envisioned sort of for the future. If everything were better, what would it look like?
Okay, I got a few things. It's a long laundry list, but I'll try to keep it concise as possible. It'll be some type of reparations for Black people. It can be college tuitions paid for individuals who graduated high school. It can be funded, sponsored private schools for elementary school age kids or middle school. It'll be some type of reparations that African Americans are due. And I think that will be one thing. I think we will revisit some of the cases whereby some of the policemen who have been exonerated for the crimes. I know with double jeopardy laws, we can't open up certain things, but some civil cases whereby a family can be at the very least compensated monetarily for some of the things that we've obviously know were injustices exercised. In addition to that, other things I believe that can be exercised to make this world a better place is everybody just continue the communication, the conversation, and the dialogue about these sensitive subjects. I will be the first to say not all individuals outside of the Black race are guilty of this, that, or the third that has relationships with being a part of the injustices, but with open dialogue, with continued communication, the individuals who are part of that community or who are part of the racist, systemic racist, and community of folks who don't align with Black folks, just more dialogue can hopefully sway and move the needle to where we'll have justice for all and move on with positive and loving brotherhood moving forward.
Thank you, Brandon. Unfortunately, we are out of time, and as indicated from the Q&A and the number of participants and comments, we could have this conversation for several more hours. So hopefully we will schedule another conversation very similar to this. Thank you, Aaron, Brandon, Sharon, Rose. What an honor to be with the four of you today. And of course with you, Lori. Thanks to Starkloff Disability Institute for inviting Diversity Awareness Partnership to be a part of this program. So I will turn it over to you, Lori, to end us out.
Thanks, Melissa and DAP for partnering with us on this series. As Melissa said, we the participants today and with the questions we have, we are really committed to continuing this conversation in the weeks and months ahead. And we thank our panelists for joining us today, sharing your thoughts and your experiences with everyone. And we will wrap up our 8830 series next week on July 30th with Galen Lee in concert and conversation. So please go to starkloff.org/8830 to register for that. And you'll also be receiving a recording of this presentation via email later today or next week. And again, we thank you all very much for attending. Thank you very much to our panelists, Rose Gielan, Sharon Lyons, Brandon Morris, Aaron Owens. Thank you so much for being part of our Starkloff family, and we wish you all the best. So, thanks everyone. Have a great day.
Peace and blessings, y'all. Take care.
All right, thank you.
Thanks everybody. Take care. Bye-bye.